Hello everyone, welcome to 3ddesignacademy.com. In this lesson, we will continue with part 8 of the Lamborghini Aventador project. So in the previous lesson, we spent some time working on the lore over here, and we discovered a problem, and that is this highlight over here. This is supposed to appear as just one panel, but because of this little highlight, the flick in the highlight, I think it's going to be causing a lot of problem. And I was doing a little bit exploration, and I think I was thinking the model a little bit. I don't think I was thinking about the model quite correctly. And the reason for that is, if you look at this image right here, this is the LP700. This is not the LP750 that we're working on. And if you see over here, the shape of the panel is exactly the same, but you'll see that there is no surface break. And I think this is how it's supposed to be on the other one too. The reason why I'm saying this is, let me just bring up an image. Because if you see this one, it looks like there's a surface divide, but I actually think that this is just a paint difference. And as you can see, yeah, because if this is a different panel, or if there's a bend in a panel, I think there's supposed to be a little bit difference. But if you actually look at this, I think this is just like a paint work that is separating and is giving you an illusion that it's actually a separate panel, or that there's a change in shape. When you look at this, however, you realize that it looks exactly like the other one, except there is no break right here. And I think this is how it's supposed to be made, because I was trying to do a little bit exploration of how to make this over here, and the surfaces just were not working together. So I think this is, I'm going to try and build it this way. Okay, so let's go back to the model and see what we can do. So right now, you will see that there's a little event. So this actually needs to be fixed. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So first of all, let me just undo this, because this is no longer valid. So let me just delete this one as well. I'm just going to delete the surface over here. And what I'm going to do is, since it looks like this surface is supposed to be just one straight surface, here's what I'm going to do. I am going to connect the curve. I'm just going to make this a degree 2. I'm going to connect the curve over here like this. And actually, you know what? Let me copy and paste this one over here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to copy and paste like this. And I'm going to extend this curve. So the one I copied pasted is 43. So I'm just going to snap it over here, somewhere over here. And I'm just going to snap this one over here like this. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because this has, right now all the surface has a little bit of crown. So I'm trying to keep it, also keep this as a crown, keep the crown or the similar gesture of crown on the surface as well. Okay, so I think that's good. And the second thing I'm going to do is, I'm just going to, let's see, I'm going to create a bi-rail based on the surface. So what I'm going to do is, actually before I do that, I do think that this has a little bit too much twist on the surface. So actually, let me just bring this a little bit more inboard. Now, this is also going to depend on how much, well, I need to pull this out. So let me just pull this in so that there's not too much of a twist over here. And what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to realign this curve like this. So I'm just going to snap it over here. I don't think it snapped on the right place. No, I don't think it did. So I'm just going to grab this surface. I'm going to grab this curve. Actually, let me just make sure the quality is, draw precision is high. And I'm just going to grab this curve over here like that and go to the side view. And I'm going to just re-snap it like this. And that should have fixed the surfaces. Okay, so I think everything looks good. There's a little bit less twist there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to realign this curve over here to this one right here. Okay, so I think that's good, and I'm just going to create a bi-rail based on the surface. Now, because of this is actually, I pushed this in, this probably also has to be pushed in, but that's okay. I'm going to be doing that a little bit later. Okay, so I'm just going to do a bi-rail. So this is going to be the generation curve. This is going to be rail 1. And the edge that we already have, that's going to be rail 2. Okay, so let me just check the highlight to make sure that it is somewhat reasonable. I think it looks good. There's a little bit of twist over here. I think there might be a little bit too much volume there. So I might have to either... you know what? I'm going to make this a little bit flat. So I'm just going to reduce the volume on this just a little bit. I think that's causing a little problem. Surface funny over here. I'm just going to do that. Okay, so I think that's a little bit better. There's a surface behind this one, so I'm just going to hide it for a second. Okay, so I'm just going to delete this one. That is no longer needed. I'm just going to look at the surface structure. Highlight looks pretty good. There's a little bit of flick here, but I think it's reasonable. And I think the overall highlight is looking pretty good. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. So now let's go ahead and trim this surface out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this edge, and I'm going to grab also this edge. And let's just trim it out. Oh, actually, before I trim it out, I do need to extend it down. So I'm just going to extend the surface like this. And I think that's good. Let's just, and I'm also going to project this bottom line over here like that, so that we can trim everything. Now, also we do need to trim this one, because it actually needs to connect. Let's see, actually, you know what? I'm just going to trim it using this for now. Okay, so I think that's good enough, and let's just trim. Okay, so looks like it's not trimming. Oh, okay, we need another projection curve over here. So I'm just going to project that one like this, and here it is. Okay, so overall, I don't think it's too bad. This one needs to actually pop out a little bit, and I probably need to adjust it to, because I made this a little bit flat due to the highlight, I probably need to make a little bit of adjustment. But before I do that, actually, I think I'm going to increase the amount of volume on this piece over here. I think it might be too flat. I think that's one of the reasons why it's causing a little bit of highlight issue over here. I think that's good. And let's just take a look. The crease is still there. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so I think overall it's not too bad. Now this one I'm going to fix a little bit later. That's the last of my worries. So let's go ahead and work on this one. Okay, so this area, actually this is one of the more critical areas that we need to be aware of. Now, if you look at the image over here, let me just pull this out. You'll see that everything is just one surface, and you'll start to see a little break over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a curve from here to here to trim this out. And I'm just going to twist the surface inward so that we can get this nice gesture in here. So I'm just going to untrim this curve, this surface over here. And this, I believe, was the original location that we need to have this sort of intersect. So I'm just going to project this curve over here. And this is where the surface is going to transition inboard. Okay, so I'm just going to trim this one like this. I think that looks good. Now let's see if it's going to work over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a degree 2 curve like this, and I'm just going, oh, not a degree 2, degree 3 curve like this. I'm just going to snap over here, And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this into a degree 3. And because this has to be a nicer transition, it has to be a curvature transition, I'm just going to align this curve over here. And I'm also going to twist this one inward like this. So now I'm just going to do a bi-rail. I'm going to pick this one as a gen, this one as a rail, and this one is a rail too. Looks like it's not building, so I'm just going to do rebuild over here. It's got a lot of spans, but that's okay. I'm more interested in the shape. Okay, so because of the twist, so you'll see the highlights going straight and it's lifting up, but that's okay. And if you see this image over here, I think this is also doing the same thing. So I think this is actually pretty good. And because of the division over here, what is this surface? Oh, this we no longer need. So I'm just going to get rid of that. And I probably need to redo this one as well. I think because of the history, this might have got ruined, but that's okay. I'm going to take care of that a little bit later. Okay, so I think this surface transition inboard is good. However, I do think that this probably needs to be stretched a little bit more rearward. Actually, let me just take a look at the side view. Yeah, I think because it actually disappears somewhere over here, I think I might want to give it a little bit of more angle. So let me just go back here, and I would say probably something like this might be better. Okay, so I think that looks good. Oh, looks like that's the history might be the reason why it's doing that. Okay, I know it's not doing what I wanted to do, but that's okay. I probably have to just rebuild it. And as a result of me pulling this back, the CV, if you look at the CV structure, it's a little bit closer here. But I think that's actually okay because I want this transition to go in a little bit earlier. So I'm just going to leave it like that. However, I want to make sure that this is working. So the curve is there, so I don't know why it's not. Well, it could be just a matter of redoing the bi-rail. So I'm just going to click here, here, and here. Let's see. I don't know why it says there's a minimal separation. It could be because of the curve and surface, but I'm not quite sure. So let's just check. Zooming in, I don't think there's a problem. So it just could be a little bit of bug. I'm not sure. So let me just retrim and let me just redo the bi-rail. 1, 2, and 3. Oh, okay. So if that's okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a stretch tool to snap this one over here, and let me just do bi-rail again and see if that solved it. Oh, yes, it did. Well, Alias is not a perfect software as proven here, but that's still okay. So I'm just going to set this as a curvature, and you'll see that there's a lot of span, so I'm going to try and reduce that. So gen degree needs to be a little bit higher, I think. Okay, so that gives us curvature, and because it needs to be degree 3, I think that looks good. Okay, however, I don't like the CV structure here, so I probably have to like slide it a little bit. And that's, I think the reason why it's doing that is because this curve is a little bit leaning this way. The CV structure is leaning a little bit that way. So I think that's why. And let's see, rail 2 needs, okay, so it looks like rail 2, position influence. Okay, so I think that's pretty good for now. And I'm just going to use a curve segment to pull this a little bit more this way so that the CV structure is a little bit more even. Okay, so I think that looks good. So now let's go ahead and redo this one over here. So I'm just going to, well, actually, this one I think I actually need to delete. And well, okay, so this is the gen curve, but the problem is right now this needs to be trimmed off. So I'm just going to delete this one, and I'm going to untrim this one like this. And I think this might, actually, this needs to be shorter. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. So right now we have a new section over here, so I have to redo this. So I'm just going to delete this one over here like this, and I'm just going to do a rail again, 1 and 1. And this is going to be gen, this is going to be rail, curve segment can be turned off, and I'm going to re-snap this one over here. And let's do the rail over here again. Okay, so I think that looks good. And now I'm going to just trim this piece over here. So I'm just going to use the existing curves. This needs to be projected over here, and I'm just going to trim. Okay, so I think that looks good. And this edge, okay, so that needs to be updated. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the stretch tool to snap this one over here. This one needs to be updated as well. Oh, let's go back. So I'm just going to trim this one. That one is fine. I'm going to use this curve, and I'm actually going to stretch it out so that I can snap it over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to snap this curve over here, and I'm just going to snap there. And looks like it's this curve. Okay, so you'll notice that this curve is going out and in and snapping back here. That is not going to give us a result that we want, because if this goes in, then the surface is also going to go in. So what I need to do is I actually need to pull this out a little bit like this, and I'm going to redo this surface over here. So it's going to be redone like this. Although I should have probably matched that. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to do a bi-rail. It's going to be 1 and 2. Let me just go back to the perspective view like this. And I'm going to just do a bi-rail here and here. And this is the other edge that I'm going to do a bi-rail. And let me just increase the degree. Well, actually, you know what? I don't need to do that. Gen degree should be kept at 2. I'm actually going to turn the explicit control off. And I'm going to just reduce it like this. And I'm going to just project it. Well, actually, you know what? Let's just leave it natural. So I'm just going to use the curve segment. Oh, okay. So it won't allow me to do that. I wanted to match this edge over here, but it's not letting me. So I'm just going to project this curve over here so that the transition over here is nice. And I'm just going to trim this one. And I'm going to recreate this surface over here. It's just going to rail 1 and 1. I'm going to turn the curve segments off. Okay, so looks like there's a little bit of an issue. I don't know what's going on. I think that might be okay. So it looks like the location is a little bit off. That's okay. Let me just snap it back. And looks like this one is a little bit off too. So I can just move this curve. Right now we have history. Where did it go? Oh, okay. So let me just untrim and retrim. Okay, so that's good. Okay, and I think that looks good. All right, and let me just reproject this one like this, and I'm going to trim this one. Okay, so far so good. I think that looks much better. I think I might need to lean this in a little bit more, but that also depends on how everything else looks. So here's what I'm going to do. First of all, I'm just going to extend this piece over here like this. And I'm going to make this a degree 2 and whatever history. Oops, not that one. I'm going to just align this one to this surface. It's going to be edge G2, position influence to max. And I'm also going to make sure that we reduce the span on this one. So I'm going to say explicit control on, and rail degree gen can be degree 2, but rail degree I'm going to increase to, oh, there we go. We got a nice surface over here. Let me just to make sure. I don't like, Whenever I have the shade on, it looks like the light, this is a light direction. I don't like that, so I'm just going to turn the lights off like this. And now let's go ahead and make sure that the offset between this surface and this surface is good. So right now you'll see that there's a little bit of difference between this one and this one because there's a little bend. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to extend this piece over here like this. Actually, I'm just going to turn merge back on. I'm going to snap it over here. And because, let's see. If you look at this image over here, you'll see that this all needs to match. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to align this piece. Oh, not that edge. I'm going to align this edge. I'm going to align it position. I'm going to say position like this, and I'm going to turn blending on. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, blend factor of 0. So that, yes, there is a bend, but it's still going in a little bit. Actually, that does not look good. So I think what I'm going to do is I might have to adjust this one as well. So let me just delete this one. I no longer need that. And actually, you know what? I'm going to just turn merge on. And I'm going to make this into degree 2. So whatever adjustment I make to this one, this it's also translates over here. So I'm just going to align this one over here like this. And I'm just going to look at the distance. And it looks like this offset needs to be a little bit bigger. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this curve like this. And because this surface is aligned to this one, you'll see that it's moving at the same time. And that's good. And I'm just going to push it in like that. And I'm going to try and mimic whatever we had over here. So I think I probably need to push it a little bit more. Well, or let's see. Yeah, I might just do a little bit more. Let's see. Yeah, I think I'm going to do just a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to grab this curve again, just the end, and I'm going to push it in. I think that's pretty good. Now, I think what I'm going to do is, because we need to keep this edge somewhat straight, I think I'm just going to, first of all, let me just extend this one so that we can cover this this up. And I think I'm just going to extend this one back over here like this, and I'm just going to align it position on the top because that needs to be aligned. But instead of doing it all the way, I'm just going to do a blending, and I'm going to say 1, 2, 3 and blend factor of 0 so that it is a somewhat consistent. This line over here is a somewhat consistent. Now there is going to be a break, but I am also going to give it a fillet, so I think that should be okay. There's going to fillet all the way down from the top to bottom, so that should somewhat give it a little bit of balance. Okay, so far so good. I think I was able to make the necessary changes to make sure that this works. The highlight is flowing. Well, it's not horrible. It's pretty good, but I think it could have been a little bit better. But much better than before. I think we were able to get the shape that we want. If you look at this, it is very similar to this one. So we got a break here, and it's just, blending softly into this one. And we got this feature blend that should be blended eventually to this one. And if you look at the shape over here, it's much better than before. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. I think, although eventually we probably need to do not a surface break, but a paint breakup. So I'll probably need to just project this line and just make it a different surface. So what's going to happen is I'm just going to project this one over here in Y, and this I'm just going to divide like this. And what's going to happen, and this, let's say this is light gray, I'm going to make this a little bit darker gray. Let me just pick this one. Actually, even if Yeah, something like this. So we now it looks like it's diving down. Well, depending on the view, it looks like there's a little break, but as you can see on this panel over here, there actually isn't a physical break between the two. I think it's just the color breakup that's doing that. And if you see this image over here, so you'll notice that it's how it's broken. So it looks like it's a different panel, but it's actually just a paint work. This is what I think. Of course, I haven't actually seen the real car, but I think this is pretty close to what it needs to be. All right. Okay, so in the next lesson, I think I'm going to spend some time readjusting all of these surfaces so that it fits. And I think that's what I'm going to do. All right. So that is it for part 8. We'll continue in the next tutorial. And thank you guys for watching.